Carolina Panthers schedule has been released, and recently we got to hear from Dave Canales and his reaction to the schedule. We're here to break it down for you guys.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. It's a busy time of year, but also a slow time of year as we enter into the phase of OTAs, mandatory minicamp. Then we have a gap in training camp right around the corner. So we really get like 45-ish days off. It's close to a month and a half of no football news outside of trades or potential stragglers that are getting signed to the roster, which if you are a Panthers fan, there's probably a good chance that you hope there's a cornerback, a linebacker, a safety that still makes his way in to Carolina. So today, like we said, we're going to break down everything that we heard from Dave Canales. He spoke to the media on May 15th, giving us an update on the season's layout, his perspective. I don't think there was anything earth-shattering in here, revolutionary, but we'll break it down, talk about what we heard, and give our perspective as we also look at the season. Now, we've already had a 1 hour long live stream to break down the season. If you haven't heard it, for those that listen on the podcast, I did not publish that on the podcast platforms. You can go out to YouTube, search for us, Two Growls, One Roar. It's available. We did publish a 10-minute reaction, and then we did an even shorter version when it comes to YouTube Shorts. So it's available. First up, big one, the return to prime time. So again, after a season without any Panthers primetime football games, the Panthers will return to Monday Night Football. And one thing we should note, all this conversation about the Panthers last year not getting a primetime game, you have 3 teams this season that don't get primetime. So just put that in perspective. The Browns, Titans, and now I can't remember the third because it's early in the morning as I record this episode. But nonetheless, 3 teams without primetime football games this season. Carolina Panthers not one of them, as they get the Monday Night Football matchup against the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I have a hot take with this. This game technically can be flexed. And I said, well, in the event that it is flexed, what if the reason it's flexed is because of the 49ers instead of the Carolina Panthers? Just putting it out there. Probably not the case, but I'm excited for this matchup. Dave Canales is too. He had a direct quote that said, I just love the opportunities to be able to play those type of games. You get to play under the lights, playing against a great opponent. Now, remember last year when we talked about this, he said you had to earn the opportunities to have these games. So even though the Panthers only won 5, they did enough down the stretch at the end of the season to earn an opportunity this year, as you can see. And we talked about 3 teams not getting a primetime game. He views it as a reward. Like he said last year, you got to earn it, and a good experience for the team. When he talked about team development, he said these are high-stakes games, and you needed for the team to become who they want to be, and of course, compete for the division. The goal is to build a mentality where these big games feel like another game through consistent preparation. And so when a coach gets the schedule in May, what exactly are they looking for? Of course, we are always looking for the prime time. Where do we play? What time? All that fun stuff. I think for coaching and chalking up wins and losses, we immediately go to, hey, what does this stretch look like? Can we win? How many wins are we going to get? But for coach, it's less about wins and losses, more about the flow of the season. That's something that he talked about. When's the bye week? So the bye week comes for the Carolina Panthers late in the season, and they have an opportunity to finish with 4 games left. Now, He looked at it as a good thing. I'm sure he probably would have liked it a little bit earlier because you get that little break in between, whether it's halfway. You don't want it too early, but you want it maybe halfway point. Gives you a chance to reset, get guys healthy, and get prepared to close out. But if the Panthers are playing competitive football and coming up on this stretch with 4 games to go, it could be a really nice moment for them to reset and then go out and hopefully be in contention to make a playoff push. He compared it to breaking down when there was a 16-game schedule, that he would break it down into quarters, and this provides a clear fourth quarter finish. And he said that's where the team wants to be. They always talk about finishing. We saw them finish last year, saw them finish a lot of games last year down the stretch, a few that didn't go their way, but you like it. The other observation was the stretch of 6 non-divisional games in the middle of the season. We also know they open, which we'll talk about on the road in just a minute, open against a lot. Like the first half of their schedule is heavily AFC. So again, it's teams you haven't seen or haven't seen in a while, but it allows them to see some different teams, work on their craft, and encounter different playing styles, defense and offense. Sees this as a learning lessons. Get there. The other thing is what we would probably consider a tough start, whether Coach Canales is going to admit it or not. 3 of the first 4 games on the road. We see it, like we said, possibly as a negative, but we know how Coach Canales is, Mr. Positivity. He's got a different perspective. And he even talked about this last season for folks that followed the team closely. He said road games are an opportunity for us to grow. It makes you get closer as a team. Being in the hotel together, traveling, shared meetings, going out to dinner, all those things. And you get to focus a little bit more. I mean, just think about, I don't know how many people for you personally travel or have to travel for work. You get out of your zone. You can, you think about your routine when you're at home. Gives you a chance to focus on what you got because you don't have any other distractions. You really don't. So you don't have to worry about this, and this. Family, did I feed the dogs? Do I have to go run to the store? Like everything is, let's go to work. Let's do what we got to do. He likes that it's happening early as the team will, they got to figure out their identity. He talks about winning on the road. You got to win on the road late. I don't know if I have it in my notes, but one of the other things that was brought up was questioning the bowl game that leads into that happens at Bank of America Stadium. They have the Duke's Mayo Bowl at the end of the season. I think it was Joe Person of The Athletic that asked Dave Canales his opinion on the bowl game, having it late in the season, and if that impacted the Panthers having to travel. And that's when he was like, well, you got to win on the road. He pretty much like stepped around it, wasn't going to go out and yell at Tepper. It is unique, though, because there's the Mayo. I know it happens before the Panthers kick off, but you have like the Mayo Bowl at the beginning of the year. You have the ACC championship as well that's baked in early December. And then, of course, the bowl game at the end of the season. So working around quite a few things within the Panther schedule. Sees that. So a road heavy start means more home games later in the season to bring our show home. So with the schedule full of opponents, including familiar, of course, NFC South foes late in the season, does Dave Canales circle any particular matchup? His answer speaks to his core coaching philosophy. So every game is the game. Consistency, high stakes. So no game is bigger. This is exactly what he said. No game is bigger than the other one. And if we can make them all big games, they all matter. Said it applies to every opportunity, including preseason games, to evaluate talent and see who will emerge and make plays. He did reference the ability or potential to be able to face Buffalo. Love seeing strong teams just to see who we are against the best. You get a good stretch there with Buffalo, Green Bay. I like it too because last year you think about the Kansas City game, you think about the Philadelphia Eagles, 2 teams that made it to the Super Bowls. Panthers were competitive in those games. Likely could have or should have won. They've got a chance to build that resume this year. It's not a resume so much as college football, but hey, you got to have a little bit of belief. You got to beat one or two of these teams that are consistently in the playoffs or in contention and making runs to make yourself feel like, okay, yeah, we belong. And then that late season, it's not really back to back, but almost that little stretch there with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the preparation and challenge for both sides, having played each other in such a short amount of time. He said, what plays didn't we call in the first meeting versus the second? And that was the other thing I was going to say that's not brought up in this press conference. If you look at the first three opponents, there is some familiarity there with both sides. Liam Cohen, who was with Tampa Bay this past season as the OC, now the head coach at Jacksonville. So, we're going to know their offense a little bit. He's going to know our defense. Then you move on to Arizona Cardinals. We saw them late in the season last year. Sure, there's going to be some changes, but in general, relatively the same. And, of course, the Atlanta Falcons. So those first three games, scouting based off of what you saw last year, they're going to know each other a little bit. It's not going to be the same as, playing each other in a short time frame, but a little easier to scout. And then you move on to New England, who really haven't seen anything. On the past struggles of starting fast, this was his quote: "This is a new team. I really don't know what our team is, but we have an opportunity to figure it out." Of course, he emphasized taking it one game at a time, starting out with Jacksonville. Panthers have started slower-ish, but I don't even know if we call it slowish, considering you have to go back to Cam Newton's I'm back game for the last time the Panthers had a above 500 record. I think it's in October, November, within later in the season, which is wild. That's 4 years ago, 5 years ago at this point. It's not good. That's what we want. Competitive football and around 500. So looking at some of the logistics, though, we talked about, again, Green Bay, playing in Green Bay. It's early November, but you never know. Challenge it could present. He said a challenge it may present that'll teach us something about how to play out and handle weather. Championship opportunity that prepares teams for the postseason. I did have in my notes on here regarding the bowl games, but we already talked about that, so I'll skip over it. Joint practices. So far confirmed, we have the Cleveland Browns before the first preseason game. Sounds like multiple practices with Kevin Stefanski. For the other two preseason games, just at Houston and Pittsburgh, still working through that. So he did reach out, or they're trying to communicate, see if there's any interest there. He also mentioned just the ability, if they could, in Houston, dealing with the weather, the climate, the heat that goes with that. So did get a small update on Derek Brown's injury. He's currently week to week, focusing on his conditioning, just working his way back, his confidence. That about does it. So the overall message from Canales: excitement, I guess, to a certain extent, for the schedule reveal. He just seems like a person that's going to be, excited about anything and all right, I can't wait to map this out, figure out our game plan. It's probably already working on it now, and to focus on improvement. And you know what? It's a big opportunity for the Carolina Panthers this year. I know a lot of folks have kind of been up and down trying to figure out, how much do we trust this team this season? How much do we trust the way they finished to start this season? It's going to be a big opportunity. The first half of the schedule, not really. I think it's the first 5 or 6 games. You're talking about teams that didn't make the playoffs last year. So you have a really good stretch there, quite a few AFC opponents. Give yourself a chance to have an opportunity down the stretch, and that's all that you can ask for if you're a Panthers fan. As always, folks, appreciate you guys tuning in. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.